we get to the actual council meeting, we have a swearing in for the one council member. So Wise and Corey come up, and Joel's going to swear him in. So we'll leave it to you two, and I'll get out of the way and get everything written here.
All right. Raise your right hand, please. I, Corey Coleman, do solemnly swear
I, Corey Coleman, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio
and the Charter of the City of Perrysburg, Wood County, Ohio,
and the Charter of the City of Perrysburg, Wood County, Ohio,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of member of council of the City of Perrysburg,
of member of council of the City of Perrysburg,
Wood County, Ohio, so help me God.
Wood County, Ohio, so help me God.
Congratulations.
I got it. Do you want to be happy with that?
Yeah. All right, come on. Or do you want to just ask? Yeah. You guys, we're going to get a picture really quick, okay? Come on. Hey, Mom, you can come up too.
Yeah, that's my good.
Don't be shy.
Thanks for coming. Be good. Let's do that.
First trick is to get in. I'm sorry, yeah, of course, we're going to hat.
Just add some stuff in my car.
All right, I will call the council meeting of January 21st, 2020 to order. Before I do that, we've never really had to do this before, but we noticed in the charter that in the absence of the clerk of council, the charter provides that council will recommend and vote on a replacement for this meeting. So I would recommend that council approve the use of our Deputy Finance Director, Amber, as the clerk of council for tonight's evening. So tonight's meeting. So we'll need a motion. Roll call.
Ms. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Martini?
Yes.
Mr. Matuzak?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Duzen?
Yes.
That we've actually filed roll call. We need and welcome Amber and roll call for attendance.
Ms. Bourne?
Here.
Mr. Coleman?
Here.
Ms. Materney? Here. Mr. Matuzak?
Here.
Mr. McCarthy?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Van Duzen?
Here.
Please stand and join me if you're able and stand the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Then we probably never had that before. The Deputy Finance, whatever. We have minutes from the last council meeting of January 7th, 2020.
Yes, I will
Hearing that there is no need to change in the minutes, I will make a motion to approve the minutes of the city council meeting from January 7th, 2020 as written and dispense with the reading.
Second.
Roll call?
Ms. Bourne,
Yes.
Mr. Coleman,
Abstain.
Ms. Matroni,
Yes.
Mr. Matuzak,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen.
Yes.
We're not aware of any special reports, letters, communication, and citizens' concerns. If any citizens have something that's not already on the agenda, please come up to the microphone. Okay. Administrative reports. I don't have a very long report other than just to commend the street crews. Had their first challenge with snow this year, snow and ice actually, and the new director of the department and the crews all did very well. So I received several compliments for the hard work they did and how well they did it. So I want to pass that on, and I've already done that to Rob. I would also like to recommend that the council appoint Tony Wade to the Citizens Parks and Advisory Committee during the President of Council report. Administrative report.
Your Honor, just wanted to make mention that the city has received the downtown ADA assessment back from our consulting firm, and we hope to get that packaged up in a format and emailed out to you tomorrow. It's probably about 500 pages worth of information, documentation, and pictures, so we want to make sure that it gets through our firewall to everybody. We also have a public, I'll call it a public records request for the same document, and Laura will be handling that as well, and hopefully we'll get that wrapped up tomorrow.
Ms. Cabot, since it is so many pages, could we get hard copies? I think it'd be a lot easier for us rather than downloading.
Whatever your pleasure is. I know I have
Great.
Councilman Matuzak would like it in electronic format. So I can certainly have a copy placed in your mailbox.
Thank you.
Do you have a report, Director of Finance?
I do not.
Director of Law?
No report.
Thank you. President of Council?
Thank you, Your Honor. As you mentioned earlier, we would had our appointment review committee met this evening for Tony Wade for his approval into PrAC, and it was a unanimous recommendation, so I would like to make a motion to approve Mr. Wade for PrAC.
Roll call?
Ms. Bourne,
Yes.
Mr. Coleman,
Yes.
Ms. Matroni, yes. Mr. Matuzak,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Committee reports, Finance and Economic Development.
Thank you, Mayor Mackin. We did have a meeting on January 14th. It's called to order at 5:30 p.m. The president was myself as chairman, and community members present were Deborah Bourne and Tim McCarthy. Also joining us was Ms. Alkire, our law director, Dave Krebs, our finance director, Amber Ratburn, our deputy finance director, and Steve Bronder, our income tax commissioner. First on the agenda was discussion regarding city council records retention schedule. Ms. Alkire stated that city council is the only department or division that does not have a records retention schedule. She said that she contacted the state for examples of legislative bodies' RC2 forms, which is a form that she distributed at the committee meeting. The administration has prepared an RC2 form for city council showing the records that are generated and the period of time they have to be maintained. Ms. Alkire added that the boards and commissions with appointed members fall under the same records retention schedule as city council. I asked if city council needed to vote on this matter, and she said that we do not, but a motion and support would be warranted. The committee recommended that I'm sure the phrase email messages be changed to, the phrase email messages, which was in the RC2 form, be changed to email communications. And I asked for an explanation of what is meant by the term council member files, because that was one of the documents that we were supposed to retain. There was discussion regarding public records and private versus public emails. Ms. Alkire added that there are some public records seminars coming up. So that's an ongoing issue right now. There's no legislation for that tonight. We moved on to the Amplex agreement, which we'll be discussing tonight. Ms. Alkire requested approval of an agreement with Amplex. She said that it is a twofold agreement with Amplex using space on the top of the Fort Mix water tower and using one cell within conduit that the city owns. There are 4 cells within the 20,000 feet of conduit, and 1 cell is already being leased
to ComNet as part of a 20-year agreement. The agreement with Amplex would be for 10 years. Amplex would provide the city with services in exchange for the use of the one cell in the conduit. I asked if ComNet is in competition with Amplex, and Ms. Alcar said that they could be, but it's a non-exclusive agreement. The committee had several questions, and Ms. Alcar said that Gary Kleinfelter, our IT manager, was here tonight, and a representative from Amplex can be at the next city council meeting. And Ms. Alcar said that she will put the agreement on the agenda for that night or tonight, and if council doesn't feel comfortable acting on it, they can send it back to the committee. Next up, we had the finance director's report. We looked at the expenditures greater than $5,000. Nothing significant came up. Mr. Krebs reported that the balance in the health and welfare fund at the end of the year, at the end of the calendar year, was about $760,000. He said that he will be receiving a refund of approximately $30,000 for a specific stop loss that would have been booked back at the end of the year, but he didn't have it at the time to book it. He's in the middle of running calculations for 2020, and he thinks there will be a small incremental increase. Next up, the tax commissioner gave his report. This is good information if you're the city, and it's not always good information for the taxpayer, but tax collections for the year were up 7.7%, which means people must be making money. The year-to-date collections for 2019 came in at just over $21 million, which was about $1.5 million, I believe, more than we had budgeted for the year. And under other business, Ms. Alcar requested an executive session to discuss the purchase or sale of real estate. I move that we go into session, run into session. We're in there from 6:09 to 6:28 p.m. We came out and immediately adjourned the meeting. So what I have tonight for you in the way of legislation is we have a resolution that we've everybody received in their email with the council packet, correct? I had some questions about it today, and I emailed those to Ms. Alcar, and she answered them via email. I'm sure other people will have questions tonight. I guess what I'd like to do is be able to discuss it without, do I need to put it on the table first?
Put it on the table and introduce it, and then
Just
allow the discussion, and
Okay.
then presentation by Mr. Kleinfelter and Mr. Hill if
Okay.
council would indulge.
Sounds good. So then I would like to introduce Resolution 2, 2020. I move the rules be suspended to allow for its reading by number and title only, and to dispense with the second and the third readings.
Second. Roll call.
Ms. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
Mr. Matuzak?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen?
Yes.
Now, discussion. So you about that as well.
Yes, please.
You know who you are, but we can both identify yourselves.
Gary Kleinfelder, IT Manager for the City of Perrysburg.
Ryan Hill, Director of Operations for Amplex.
Middle of last year, Amplex approached the city because they had some interest in being able to have some elevated platforms for some of their wireless. We also have some interest in being able to create better connectivity between our facilities. So we started working out this agreement that you see before you, and the idea was to come to a $0 agreement. So we worked through many different iterations of this, of different services, and within this, one of the services provided to us would be a gigabit internet connection, which is roughly 100 times faster than our current internet connection. They would be then also responsible for our point-to-point connection. The point-to-point connection allows this building to connect to each individual building. So we don't have conduit or fiber underground at this point. We do everything wirelessly. It reduces the cost significantly. They'll monitor those connections for us. They'll install those connections for us. We looked at also supplying some Wi-Fi services to some of our municipal grounds that they'll provide for us. And we also have 4 individuals in the city who are certified tower climbers. They already certify several tower climbers. So these 4 will maintain their certification under this agreement as long as this agreement lasts. So we have people that can climb towers, do work for us at any capacity. IT, water division needing to inspect the top of towers, look at light bulbs up there that we've noticed in the past. And then in return, they would like access to the top of the water towers and specifically the interduct that runs from the east side of the bridge, of our side of Maumee Bridge, out to 5 Point Road via Route 25. That interduct is a 4-inch conduit with 4 1-inch interducts. So we have 4 separate spaces. One of those is used for traffic signals. One of those is used with ComNet, and Amplex would like a third one exclusively for them. The 4th one will remain unoccupied for city interests in the future.
Gary, I have some questions.
Yeah.
I guess I'd like to know why we're selecting one company without reviewing proposals from other companies.
Amplex approached us and we opened up this discussion. There's never been any interest in anything of this nature. We weren't out trying to find these services. However, we feel like we gain a lot from what Amplex can offer us. So we didn't go look at other services because they came to us. And there is no dollar on the line for it either. So we didn't hear of any interest of any other companies.
And I have a few other questions, if you mind. So I was going to ask you who else you spoke to, but I guess you didn't speak with anyone else, you're saying.
No.
And I don't know if everybody up here is aware, but you're talking about a 10-year agreement on this?
Yes.
So you're saying there's no dollar amount imaginable. I don't understand how you can't have a dollar amount imaginable for a 10-year agreement.
It's a trade agreement. There is a dollar, so their dollar amount to us would be our dollar amount back to them. So there's a dollar amount, but we're giving it right back to them because the services we're receiving for them are equivalent to the services that we're given to them, or the real estate, if you want to call it that, because it's actually space on towers and in conduit.
Can you give us what that amount would be specifically?
I had the city is to provide services at a rate of approximately $2,272 a month. Amplex is to provide services at approximately $2,258 a month. So you'll notice they're not exact, but they're very close. These numbers are all based off of market value numbers, previous agreement numbers.
You want to go down the list of what they are?
Yeah, we can. The conduit fiber opter, the conduit that we're providing is at $1,072 a month. This was based off the ComNet agreement specifically. We took their number and broke it down to what a 10-year agreement would be as opposed to a 20-year agreement. $600 space on water towers is a market value that that Amplex has explained. That's what they generally rent space on a water tower on a monthly basis for.
I got that information directly across the street, behind where the Perrysburg, the bus garage is. There's a cell tower back there. So I took got some quotes from American Tower, which owns that one, and that was their lease rate off of that, which we would pay monthly for the same kind of equipment.
Is that at the same height?
It's actually higher, so yeah.
It's actually.
Yeah.
And under the contract that is provided for in front of us, on 3C, it was referenced that you were thinking about putting this in the parks, but I don't see how you can do that. I'm not sure I understand how that's going to happen.
In regards to?
I mean, you're going to have to charge us at some point for that, aren't you? It's not going to be a free gig.
That would be part of this agreement. The value of that wireless connection to the parks is approximately $350 a month. So that would be added in, excuse me, to that total of $2,258.
Now, this added wireless, I assume you're going to be broadcasting a signal.
Yes.
We're tapping into that for city services. Does it improve the capability of our citizens for faster internet?
In the wireless capacity, within the parks, yeah. So they'll be able to go to the games, get on Wi-Fi to stream whatever. As far as residents, residents will have another provider, another high-speed provider available to them as well to get internet from, kind of like the Buckeye or Spectrum or Frontier, just to be another resource for that.
And what happened to ComNet? You mentioned them, and I read about that in the contract. Are we still with ComNet? I'm not clear on that.
We're in year 7 of a 20-year agreement, and
Yes. Right.
and we had no, and I'm not trying to pass this. This became more a real estate issue with ComNet because we had no IT interest in it. So I took a step back once it moved on to the administration and to the legal team. With this particular instance, there's IT interest, which is why I stand here before you, because I see the value in us being able to improve our connectivity through using Amplex.
Is there a contract with ComNet?
Yes.
There is
Do you know how long it goes? Because I think I saw
20.
2012.
20 years effective. It started in 2012.
So if there's a cell tower that's really close that you can tap into at least for this rate, what's the appeal of using the water tower? What am I missing there?
No, that's fine. Amplex as an organization, as a company, we've been around since 1997 as an internet service provider. We started out in rural Pemberville, so we partner with Pemberville, Woodville, most of all of the rural communities, and do the same kind of partnership with them, working with the city of Bradner right now. So the big thing for us is partnering with the communities, providing a service for them, helping the IT, and continuing to better the infrastructure to make it, into the 21st century or 22nd century now or whatever. So, the trade there is mostly benefits both parties, helps you guys move up and get your infrastructure as well as communications faster between buildings. Did I answer your question?
How long have you been in business?
Amplex has been an internet service provider since 1997, and then prior to that, we were an electrical engineering company and still are since the 60s.
Okay, I guess my question is, if this is going to be a 10-year contract, how do we know you're still going to be in business in 10 years?
We're investing millions of dollars into fiber optic networks throughout rural Northwest Ohio. We're currently in a year 3 of a 20-mile fiber build that connects Pemberville, Lucky, Elmore, Genoa, Northwood, and then back to Lucky, where our office is located. So the amount of money and time we're investing, as well as just personnel, into bettering the community and providing a second third option really for high-speed internet is big deal for us. And we're local. We're not a national conglomerate or anything. So I'm just kind of Northwest Ohio, born and raised. So enjoy that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So my first thought, there is a side to this.
Sorry. I'll call on you next.
I heard this proposal that this was the city of Perrysburg. It was going to benefit the city's work, 2 facilities. But it sounds like the scope of this is far greater than that. And you mentioned that it would give alternatives and options to the constituents, and I'm assuming other businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So it really is another alternative. So, and I just want to make sure, because I first thought that this was just the city of Perrysburg project, meaning the city's really doing it on behalf of creating additional options.
It's mutually exclusive. It does significantly improve our abilities in the city, and it also gives us a way to proactively monitor these connections. There was one instance last winter where we had an issue with a connection, and we didn't know it till after the connection broke. They have staff and personnel that can climb towers and monitor that 24/7. So from that standpoint, it improves our connectivity. It also improves their ability to provide some of those services to some people that may not be able to get those services, or give them another alternative. I don't want to speak out of line here. So yes, it's a mutually beneficial agreement. It isn't simply the city is only getting. We found a way to be able to allow both of us and be able to provide something to the residents and constituents of the city.
Thanks for that explanation. With the pace of change, is 10 years not a long time to think that this might be adequate 7 years from now? I'm expecting this just really proliferate.
In our experience in the wireless industry, everything is going to either fiber optics or wireless. Wireless is kind of ahead of the game right now, just because it's so much cheaper to build wireless networks. There's not all the ground cost to bury it in the ground, hanging on the poles, that kind of thing. So the issue then becomes interference, and all of us here have wireless devices in our house, and it causes network chaos. And I'm sure everyone has had buffering issues on their TVs that are caused by wireless. So our goal is to have another option there to allow people to, we think, get better customer service from our side of things. We take a lot more pride in what we do, how we handle our customers. We have dedicated staff on here, like Gary said, that monitors our network 24/7, that you guys would definitely be included in to make sure that all the network stays up online, stays up to date. We're investing millions of dollars yearly into upgrading and keeping up with the next level of technology. There's a community, an association called WISPA. It's Wireless Internet Service Providers Association. I sit on the board of that for the best practices. The president of Amplex is also on the treasury of the committee of that, and deals with FCC legislation on Washington, D.C. monthly. So we're very invested in the community as well as nationally into this industry. Go.
I'm not a techie, so I apologize for some of my questions if they sound like I don't know what I'm talking about.
No, you're right.
The fiber optics that you want to put in that conduit is totally separate from the wireless service, correct?
Yes.
So we could still get that wireless service from you without giving you use of the conduit, correct? They're totally separate.
Correct.
Okay. So how does this kind of varies? You might have answered this with Barry, but so how does someone that lives in the city of Perrysburg benefit? Someone that lives in the city of Perrysburg benefit from you putting your fiber optic cables in that conduit?
Again,
it only runs a certain. There's only 20 miles of it.
Yes. Yeah.
Runs from point A to point B.
So that we could call that the backbone of it. So you have ComNet. We've already discussed. They have leased that for 20 years from you guys to get that fiber optic gigabit connection from point A to point B. Our goal would be the same thing. That would tie into our 10-year plan on building out fiber throughout all of Northwest Ohio, with the goal of hitting all of our existing towers and infrastructures to make sure each tower has the bandwidth it needs to provide wireless connectivity to everyone.
So let me interrupt you. So you need that fiber optic to provide the wireless connectivity?
We don't need it, but it certainly helps. Right now we do. We can provide a gigabit wireless connection, so that's 1,000 by 1,000 megabits per second between, I'll just give you an example, the Lucky Farmers grain elevator to the Oregon Road water tower there by Chrysler. So there's a 1 gigabit wireless connection that connects the two. It'll work much better if it's on fiber. It's in the ground. It scales better. You can keep adding bandwidth to it by changing the wavelengths and stuff like that. And I can get very technical on it, but the fiber optic is much more. What's the word I'm looking for?
Robust.
Yeah, exactly, robust, and it's going to stand the test of time more. It's going to be an upgradable.
So would you not be able to provide these services to other people in Perrysburg if you didn't have this fiber optic going through?
No, we can still provide it wirelessly.
The city has an interest in potentially some of their fiber down the road. We could see ourselves connecting buildings via fiber in certain instances rather than the wireless. Wireless right now works really well. In 10 years, we're not sure what people are going to be sending over the wire or over the wireless. What we're doing is looking at opportunities where we can create connections between buildings. So getting the Route 25 fiber, or having even just a pair of, they have 288 strands there. Mm-hmm. If we could even get just 2 strands of that for our own city interest, that leaves us with the Indiana Road and the Fort Meigs Road, and we're connected directly without wireless at the high rates of speed, which will help us in the future because we're going to need more and more connectivity in the future. So there is city interest in that fiber.
When you say city, you're talking about the city as an entity?
City as an entity. City of Perrysburg, there's the IT person, that becomes very valuable because it connects 2 miles and traverses under CSX, which is a big challenge already because we have that conduit in place and there will be fiber in that place. So now that, if you imagine a map and you're trying to draw a line between two spots, but you're stuck, well, maybe this construction project connects us here. We have things that are coming up in the next several years that we try and take advantage of to bury conduit so that we can create those connections and we aren't relying completely on wireless. Wireless is great. Wireless works very well for us today, but we need to make sure we're prepared for 10 years from now.
Gary, would it be helpful to explain when, I mean, that was put in as part of the bridge construction and,
Yes.
and so the city has anticipated putting in extra tubes, I'll say, so
That's
you can
fine.
put in these lines so that we could, in the future, lease them out to people. That was one of the reasons it was set up that way.
Right.
Could you kind of explain that practice or where that policy started and what we're doing that?
When the bridge was under construction, the city had a need right then to have communication between the traffic signals and Route 25. And that's what this conduit was initially installed for. The conduit, and I apologize, I have a cross section, it would make more sense, but it's 4 little tubes in one big tube. The idea being we could generate some revenue on the additional conduits, which we have done with ComNet in 2012. And this doesn't necessarily generate revenue, but it returns a significant amount of service for the city. That now we have 3 conduits or 3 interducts that are going to be full. We don't intend to use the 4th one. We have no interest in leasing the 4th one out because the city might need that for some use down the road. So we need to make sure we keep that available to us. So that's what that was installed. That was the purpose of the installation of that conduit. They could have installed one big tube. And then once you put fiber through, you really don't want to pull a second fiber through because it twists and breaks and becomes extremely expensive. Having the multiple small tubes made it possible for us to have multiple people pull fiber through that without interfering with anybody else's service.
Okay. Since there's no money changing hands under this contract, how much are we currently have point-to-point connectivity with
Mm-hmm.
wireless, and it's 100 times less than what he can provide, correct?
The 100 times more is our internet connection. Our connections between buildings will be the same. It will not increase in speed. It'll be different equipment that they manage rather than we manage. But it's our internet connection out to the world that increases significantly. Reason for this is we're doing more things in the cloud. 10 years ago when I started, we hosted everything internally. We had files internal. If we lost our internet connection, we could go without it for an hour. Everything we're doing now is cloud-based. We're storing our files out there. We're running our services out there. We have a lot of phones can potentially be out in the cloud. So we need that internet connection. As a matter of fact, we're going to have that internet connection and a backup so that we can maintain that connectivity.
Well, that was going to be my second part of my question was, are we going to not pay for an internet connection service that we're currently paying for?
We're going to scale it down significantly.
So there's some cost savings there?
There will be cost savings there.
No offense, but is this something that ComNet could do for us too?
What's that?
Is this the same thing that ComNet could do for us?
I have no idea. I don't have any technical interaction with ComNet. ComNet was a provider that came through, and we didn't have interest, so I stepped back from what ComNet does, and I don't know who discusses things with ComNet at this point.
I only ask because we've only got 4 of these cylinders. We're using up yet another one. If we can get the services that we're looking for from someone that's already using one of them, we still have 3 left. So I thought it might be worth at least comparing them. Usually when you get bids, you get more than one bid. So you get more than one proposal from somebody. And then, since it's a 10-year contract or a 10-year agreement and things change with time, we might find out we need something else 5 years from now that we don't know about, or the value of what he's providing could go down substantially because it's 5 years old technology. But the cost of the things that we're using at climbing is going up because those go up. Who's going to be responsible for monitoring the value of exchange for services over the course of this agreement, so that it doesn't get out of hand at some point?
It would be a compilation between IT,
I know we're not
legal,
talking
and
big
myself.
dollars, but at some point somebody should probably be responsible for making sure it's still 5 years from now, whatever we're exchanging is something we would agree to. If pretty low.
that it still has that equity.
Some are close. If you didn't do this, if the city didn't do this with you, would this prevent you from being able to come to Perrysburg?
No.
And expand your business?
No.
It's just, it would help.
Yeah. Yep, it would definitely help. But like I said, there's
How would it help?
What's that?
How would it help?
Just providing the partnership with the city, being able to bring into the community at less than what we typically would lease a tower for across the street.
I'm thinking more about the fiber though.
Um,
Fiber optics. If you had to go and play your own fiber optics,
yeah, it's approximately.
that cost you more.
It would, yeah, it definitely would, yep. But again, with it already being the ground, we have that $1,072 a month would be the lease rate for the fiber in the ground, in the duct.
That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Clarification, point to point, for the city, they talk from building to building, there'll be fiber optic cables? No.
Not under this. The wireless is a wireless point to point. We have a radio on one, radio on another, and they are pointed directly at each other, and that's how our data transfers between the two buildings.
Okay, thank you.
No other discussion? Roll call?
We don't have a, what was it, pass again?
Sorry.
I agree with that. I mentioned.
Oh, just remove, all right. I did. You just read it. All right.
So this one is
So I would, since I wanted to introduce it, I would personally prefer to get a few more answers. Maybe
go back.
Maybe go back to Finance Committee to collect those answers. And if anyone else has questions that they come up with between now and the next Finance Committee meeting, to funnel to me or to Jonathan, and we'll get them addressed at the next Finance Committee meeting.
Okay, and if you do have further questions that you want answered, just let us know in advance so we can get those, so we can get the answers for you at the committee. So
I shot her 4 questions today, and I think in less than an hour, she had my answers. So she responds perfectly. So.
Well, I have a question. How time sensitive is this?
At this point, it's just at the liberty of you guys approving it and going through with
We
it.
can talk
So.
about that at the Finance Committee meeting. And
Sure.
It's not something that would be passed as an emergency measure. I think we were told it would be sometime in the spring.
yeah, it's not prepared as an emergency measure, but I know from prior discussions, you were hoping to be running fiber in March at the latest, correct? So we're looking at, it's the end of January, of February Finance Committee meeting.
Yeah, so they were looking at installing the fiber to the water tower there, yeah.
What if we do this? What if everyone shoots their questions in the cell tower as soon as possible, and then we can get answers before the next scheduled Finance Committee meeting? We don't have to wait for that.
Okay.
bring it up for another reading at the next council meeting at Table Field.
You actually have another council meeting before the February Finance
Right, that's what I'm
Committee,
saying. We don't have
so
to wait for that.
I would like to go with what you said, bringing it back to the Finance Committee again, John, or I mean, Jim.
Okay. Let's see if everybody can get their questions answered.
No problem.
There's no reason to take longer than we have to.
You can always be a reading at the next council meeting that doesn't go anywhere, or a motion, and you go back to the committee meeting prior to the next council
Let's
meeting.
do that.
Sure.
Councilman Matuzak, appropriately, if you could just make a motion to table it until the next.
And I would like to make a motion to table Resolution 2/2020. Second.
Roll call?
Ms. Bourne?
Table.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
Mr. Matuzak?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen?
Yes.
Thanks, Paul.
Yes.
Our next scheduled meeting is the regularly scheduled time, which is the 4th Tuesday next month at 5:30, whatever that date happens to be.
Thank you very much. All right, the Service Committee.
No report.
Thank you. What's your next meeting?
Tomorrow at 5:30.
CAP Committee?
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no report. Our next meeting is on the 28th, next Tuesday at 6 p.m.
Thank you. The Recreation Committee?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. have a report for the regular meeting of the Perrysburg City Council Recreation Committee for the meeting of January 14th, 2020. Present were myself, Deborah Warren, councilors Jonathan Smith and Jan Attorney. Chairwoman Warren called the meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. in council chambers. After the Pledge of Allegiance, citizen concerns were requested with none presented. Chairwoman Warren had congratulated Councilwoman Attorney on her election to council, and she said she was looking forward to working with her. Under old business, the Riverside Park cannon stands, Chairwoman Warren stated that 4 people have expressed an interest to her in donating the sum of $5,000 each toward new cannon stands. In addition, the committee voted 3-0 at the last committee meeting on December 10th, 2019 to recommend to council that $25,000 be placed in the 2020 budget toward the cannon stands. And she intends to present the recommendation at the next council meeting, and I do happen to have that. I move that we place the $25,000 in the 2020 budget toward the cannon stands.
This morning, I was actually hoping that what we might be able to do with that is when we have the revised budget discussion come March, that we make sure that that's in there at that point, if that is acceptable with you.
I guess I'm bringing it up because we had voted in December 3-0.
No, and I don't disagree that was one of those yes votes, and I do agree that we need to put that in there. But I know that when the revised budget is going to be coming out, my hope is that we have the administration has heard our committee's request, and to make sure that that is added into the budget for the revised budget.
The administration does not have a problem with that.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Very fair.
I'm still going on the report here. So thank you, Jonathan. On the inclusive playground, no action on the inclusive playground has been taken at this committee since the last meeting. Splash Pad Chairwoman announced that she contacted the 200th Red Horse Squadron at Camp Peary and is waiting for further information from them. The Tom St. Myers plaque. The plaque has been completed and created by Michael Kuzno of Kuzno Restoration at no cost to the city. Chairwoman Warren said she intends to present the plaque to the St. Myers meeting at the next council meeting. I have a couple things to go, but I want to do that real quick while the St. Myers family is here. If I could, please. I also have something about Tom, but I think I'm going to let his son read it because I think that would be a little bit better. So, this is Mr. and Mrs. St. Myers. And the plaque was donated by Michael Kuzno of Kuzno Restoration at no cost to the city. So I'll do it this way. Sorry. Okay, this is from Michael Kuzno of Kuzno Restoration. He apologizes he cannot be here this evening. He has his aunt who's in the hospital. It's kind of touch and go, so we thank him for doing this. I will read to you what it says. Presented to the family of Tom St. Myers. The plaque commemorates the many years of service, the city of Perrysburg, recreation programs, and appreciation and honor, date 1/1/2020. And this is Mrs. St. Myers, Carolyn St. Myers, their son Chad. There's something about his father, and I think he might have a few words to say. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you need to have this. Okay, thank you. Whatever you like. His father had written some things, and Mrs. St. Myers had given it to me, and I thought it would be appropriate that Chad or talk a little bit about it.
Do you want to? Yeah, I don't. Okay. But could you come to the mic so we can? Sure. Work. And welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. I had something prepared, but with my dad passing, he took care of it all. So I will read this. My name is Tom St. Myers. With a name like this, the only place that you can find me is between the churches and the hospitals in the phone book. I was born on July 27th, 1943 in Piqua, Ohio. I was the second child of Thelma and Carl St. Myers. My sister was 2 years older than me and died 21 years ago at the age of 52. I remember nothing about my father because he died when I was 3 years old of leukemia. My mother never remarried. However, she did date a gentleman for a number of years. I was really excited about that until I found out that he did not own a chain of hotels and restaurants, with his name being Howard Johnson. At that point, my mother, sister, and I moved into the farmhouse with my grandparents. That is where I lived until I went to college, and I do remember the good times I had with my grandfather riding the tractor together, taking the grain to the elevator, milking the cows, and feeding the animals. Grandfather passed away when I was 7, so the rest of my childhood I was raised by 2 wonderful women, my grandmother and my mother. I went through elementary school at Washington Township Elementary School, just outside Piqua. Washington Township was a 1st through 8th grade school, and during the elementary school days I really didn't much care for school. I was involved in Cub Scouts, summer baseball, 4-H, and learning to play the trumpet. I was okay with playing the trumpet until they insisted that I practice between lessons. This lasted for about 2 months, and I really enjoyed 4-H. My real joy in elementary school came when I was selected for the 7th grade basketball team. At this point, I ate, slept, and talked basketball. My whole attitude changed about school. My grades got better, and I had a new and better group of friends, my teammates. Our 7th grade team, and the following year, our 8th grade team was very good. We were one of the best 8th grade teams in Miami County. In fact, we played Covington in the Miami County 8th grade championship game, but we lost. Keep going? Okay. Well, first of all, I'd just like to thank Mayor Mackin, City Council members, Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee for honoring my father tonight. I would also like to thank, a special thank you to Deborah and Michael Kuzno for making this all happen. And this is where I got to read. I swear it's only about 3 minutes. So I'm sure everybody's had a long day. When my mother and father moved to Perrysburg in 1969, and back then Perrysburg was much smaller, it gave him that small town feeling of where he was born and raised in Piqua. And it was then and there that he knew that this was the place to start and raise a family. As Perrysburg grew bigger and bigger, this did not bother him. He looked at it as an opportunity to teach and steer more children in the right direction, whether it was as their teacher or when he was the recreation director. He tried to instill the values in every child that he met, that he instilled in my brother and me, that made us the men who we are today. The growth of Perrysburg also gave him the opportunity to help more people in the community. From 1969 up until the day my father passed, he did not dedicate countless hours to the children and community of Perrysburg for the accolades or the recognition. He did it because he loved it. This is what he was meant to do. This is what he was destined to do, and he loved every minute of it. On November 4th, 2019, he attended his last PRAC meeting and gave his final report. On November 10th, 2019, we lost the best father 2 sons could ever have, the best husband a wife could ever ask for, and the best grandfather a grandson could ever want. There wasn't a better person to call a friend or a better person to serve the community he loved than my father. Again, thank you for honoring my father and making this a special night for our family.
Thank you to the St. Myers family.
Thank you.
And under new business, I have the PrAC appointment. Chairwoman Bourne invited Tony Wade, a candidate for appointment to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, to come to the podium. Chairwoman Bourne commented that she had read that Mr. Wade likes to walk in the park. Mr. Wade responded that he walks in Three Meadows Park 4 times a week in good weather. Mr. Smith asked why he wanted to be on PrAC. Mr. Wade answered that he has identified some problems with Three Meadows Park, which he would like to see addressed. Ms. Attorney asked what these problems were. Mr. Wade replied that some of these have already been addressed by council or this committee. Ms. Materney commented that by asking the question, she was attempting to find out if Mr. Wade goes to the park so he can see how things can be made better. Mr. Wade agreed with this. Ms. Bourne then made the motion to recommend to council to approve the mayor's appointment of Mr. Wade to PrAC. Motion approved 3-0. She informed Mr. Wade the next PrAC meeting would be in April in council chambers. Under the PrAC report, there's no report because PrAC has not met since November of 2019. Other business, Ryan Wickman had arrived at the meeting, and Chairwoman Bourne asked him for an update on the inclusive playground at Rotary Park. Mr. Wickman thanked the council for passing a resolution of support for his project at the last council meeting, and then presented an update. He announced that a fundraiser had been held, which was raised about $25,000. Chairwoman Bourne asked if Mr. Wickman's group had met with either the Planning Commission or the Planning and Zoning Committee of Council. Mr. Wickman answered that he had attended the last Planning Commission meeting before the holidays to brief them on the project. Mr. Smith apologized for missing the fundraiser due to being out of town. Mr. Wickman responded that the group will be hosting other events, such as a trivia night in the future. Ms. Materney asked if she could find out what the layout of the park will be, and Mr. Wickman gave her a map. Chairwoman Bourne invited Mr. Wickman to return to the committee at any time. He has further information about the park, and she thanked him for his work to date. Meeting adjourned 6:40 p.m. The next meeting is scheduled for February 11th, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. St. Myers, you're welcome to stay, and we can't thank you, your family enough, so we appreciate all that Tom did. You're welcome to stay, but you don't have to.
Thank you.
All right, planning and zoning.
Thank you, Your Honor. We met on January 16. Present were myself and committee members Corey Coleman and Barry Van Hoosen. Also, City Administrator Bridget Cabot, Law Director Laura Alkire, Brody Walters, our Planning and Zoning Administrator, and Mark Easterling, Deputy. First item was the land use plan update. Brody explained that the city has been in discussions on doing a land use plan update for almost 2 years. Some of the groundwork has been done by the Ohio University Extension Office and the Purdue Tipping Point Planning Program, which was a free service with an estimated value of $40,000. He said that an RFP was sent out for phase 1 of the comprehensive land use plan, which establishes goals and visions and a vision for the next 20 years. The second phase would then take a comprehensive look at the planning and zoning code to make certain it's written to help achieve those goals and that vision. Mr. Walters noted that 2 responses had been received from the RFP. Both are from qualified firms. An internal administrative committee was formed to review the proposal, and they were fairly unanimous that OHM was the more qualified group. Included in OHM's proposal were different options that the city could include. One scenario includes community engagement strategies utilized by OHM that I don't think show it. It could include a statistically valid survey. This add-on would cost $20,000 in addition to the $60,000 fee. But Mr. Walters said that he feels it would provide validity to the plan because it would give feedback on where the public is at and what they want. We at the committee agreed the survey was a good idea. We did ask for more information on how the survey would be done, which we received, and actually received a citizen survey from the city of Marysville, Ohio, which, looking at the survey, has some similarities to us, for sure. I did ask, and I think all of you were forwarded copies of the proposals. We agreed 3-0 to recommend approval of the agreement with OHM for $80,000, subject to some follow-up information regarding the survey. I'll go ahead and introduce, I briefly, very briefly chatted with Cory about this. I don't even think I talked to Barry if the follow-up was sufficient or whether it needed to go back to committee, but I'll put the ordinance out there, and we'll see if people are satisfied to move forward and get this going, or whether it needs more work. So I'd like to introduce Resolution 3-2020. Move that the rules be allowed to be suspended to allow for its reading by number and title only, and dispense with the second and third readings.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
Mr. Matuzak?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen?
Yes.
I guess I'll go ahead and then move passage, and we can obviously have discussion.
I have some discussion.
Well, I think I'll go ahead and move passage, and then we can have discussion before we vote. And it's, I don't think the agenda notes it as an emergency measure, but I think it should be passed. We want to get this project up and running. It's a pretty important project for the city, and I don't see any reason to delay it any further. So I would move the resolution 3-2020 be passed as an emergency measure.
Second. Discussion.
Yes.
I'm sorry, real quick, point of order.
We never read that.
We didn't read the by number and title. We didn't read it. We didn't read the actual ordinance.
She didn't jump in like Dave always does and read it.
All right, sorry. We didn't even miss it. Didn't mean it.
Okay, Resolution 3-2020, a resolution accepting the proposal and entering into an agreement with OHM Advisors for the purposes of updating the land use plan for the city of Perrysburg, Ohio, at a cost not to exceed $80,000.
Thank you. I would then again move that Resolution 3-2020 be passed as an emergency measure.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, I do. Since I only received, I had to come down to the city building because I could not download the 36-page document. So I had to get a hard copy, and just literally hours from the council meeting, and I think it's a lot to digest for all of the council members. I think we should wait on it.
That sounds fair to me. I don't know how others feel. Now that I move passage, I can move the table, I suppose. Does anyone differ with that?
I just have a question.
Yeah.
Doesn't really have any bearing on whether you table it or not.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't hear you either when you were talking.
Yeah, we're gonna have to sit together.
One of the questions that I had asked Ms. Elkire today was, and she did respond to it, I just kind of wanted to get it out there for all council, was to what extent is the administration going to try to involve the powers that be with our Perrysburg public school system because of the impact that this is going to have on the schools, or potentially the potential impact that it could have on schools and regional.
Yes.
All of that's in the city.
We have.
Is that in the proposal to?
So on page 27 of the OHM proposal, OHM recognized that the schools were an important stakeholder for any discussion on the land use plan. And upon direction from the city, they would encourage the city working together with the schools. So that was, and I met with Mr. Walters again before I emailed you back just to confirm that yes, the administration does recognize the importance of bringing the schools into those discussions. They have their own land use plan as well, and we've been trying to work with them in providing assistance.
So both
can work together.
So is it reasonable then to assume that when the final plan is accepted, it will have, they'd have had a role in it.
They would have a seat. I would add to what Ms. Elkhart said. The schools are having their own evaluation of what they can do regarding certain land issues and certain capacity issues and resident and student enrollment. And we have been participating in that. And similarly, we have said to them that to the extent possible, we want them to have a seat at the table because, while we don't control all of the land that it provides in their school jurisdiction, we certainly control a large chunk of it, and that they would be a part of the table. So we've had both administrative discussions and also between myself and board members and the superintendent. So they'll certainly be at the table and have a voice in all of that.
So I appreciate that you would do that. That would be in any agreement that they would continue to be involved.
Yes.
Okay. What also just makes good sense.
Oh, yeah. Okay, thank you.
I actually do have just one question on it's more of just a clarification on the meeting minutes. It might be more for the administration here. I had stated that it was fairly unanimous that OHM, I'm just trying to guess what the understanding fairly, was it unanimous or was it most vote, maybe one or two? Okay.
I think it was it's not a qualifier.
It made it sound like it wasn't necessarily unanimous.
It was unanimous.
Yes, okay. That's what I just wanted.
It was almost unanimous. Yeah, it was close.
Otherwise, I think it would be appropriate to table to make sure every council member feels comfortable with this.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so are you tabling it to the next committee meeting, or do you want to bring it up to that, try and get issues resolved? Because we do want to keep.
No, I was going to move to table, and we'll, well, I don't have to specify when we'll come back to. I just bring a motion to table.
You can make a motion to table. I can put it on the agenda for the first council meeting in February, which occurs prior to your next PAZ.
Yeah, why don't you try and do that? The folks have had sufficient time then to read it and move forward. If they haven't, we'll push it back once more. I mean, this is a big issue. I don't think people should be rushed into a vote before they really have a chance to even look at these proposals. So accordingly, I will move to table Resolution 3-2020.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
Mr. Matuzak?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Duzen?
Yes.
Under the subject of other business, then, I ask that the topic of pens be on next month's agenda, and that the ordinance that was prepared a couple of years ago that permits the raising of hens within the city be provided. We then, under Law Director Laura Elkhart requested executive session. We did go into executive session to discuss imminent or pending litigation. Upon conclusion of that, in the area of new business, Mr. Walters stated that he had received an email regarding the LED tubing at River Place. The tubing is now swagged, it is flashing purple, green, and white. This matter was discussed in the previous meeting, and Dave Kinsel, property owner, said that the lighting was for the holidays. Mr. Walters said that it appears he has not held true to that. Ms. Cabot suggested that the law director contact him with minutes from the meeting. We've been adjourned, and we meet again on Wednesday, February 12th at 5:30 p.m.
All right, Personnel Committee?
No report. Next meeting is January 28th at 5 p.m.
Public Utility.
Thank you, Your Honor. I always appreciate going last. They do have no report here today, but I am going to bring back a resolution that we've had discussion in a previous committee meeting. This resolution I would like to introduce is Resolution 4/2020, and move that rules be suspended to allow first reading by number and title only, and dispense with the second and third readings.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
Mr. Matuzak?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Duzen?
Yes.
Resolution 4, 2020, a resolution authorizing a purchase agreement with Perrysburg Auto Mall not to exceed $38,000 for the purchase of a 2019 GMC Sierra 2500 for the Perrysburg Department of Utilities and declaring an emergency.
All right, I move that Resolution 4, 2020 be passed as an emergency measure.
I second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
Mr. Matuzak?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen?
Yes.
Ms. Bourne?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have nothing further before my committee.
Thank you.
I can start the motion for the executive session if that's okay. Any other business?
We would appreciate that.
For a point of clarification, we have to go into executive session, come back, and then go again. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
After the first one is adjourned, we have to receive public session and then move to go into the second.
Okay. Well, I'll make a motion to move into executive session for the purpose of discussing the purchase of real estate.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Ms. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
Mr. Matuzak?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen?
Yes.